My normal break is a crotch of a tree about 6 feet long, and each half of the crotch is about that big in diameter, and it's got two braces stuck in it. I hauled that into the shop, and it didn't fit in here. And so, oh gosh, what am I going to do? We're going to have to film outside or something. So I made this little riving brake for this class, and it just mounts in the bench. It's kind of a copy of a traditional one that was copied by Peter Fallensby, and then I copied it to make this little thing. And so it just sort of holds things for me. So you can jam this piece of wood in there, and it will give me a place to pry. I've got this taper here, and so I can put it down here. I get a lower angle and a higher angle over here. This would not survive my daily use, but it will work fine for this little light duty work, and might work great if you have a real small shop. So I'm centered, so I can put this in there. The crack is centered, I should say. And so I can put it in there either which way, it doesn't matter. But what I want to do is do a lot of looking and a little bit of splitting to see where the crack's going to run. So I'm going to push my handle down. You never pick up because all you do is pull it out of the brake over there. So you push down and just watch the crack and see if it's running up or down. And you need to watch both sides of it. So it's a little bit lower on this side. So I'm going to flip it over and you'll be able to see that. So I've got more wood here than I do up here. On the first side, it looked about even, but you have to take a reading of the average of the two sides. So whatever's happening over here and sort of decide which side is thicker overall. So to get it to run back down, I'll put a little bit of weight on the lower split to stress those fibers. And it really depends on your log. Some logs, you put a little bit of weight here and the crack will jump down. And others, you put your entire piece of weight on this 1-inch piece of wood and you can barely get it to change at all. It varies by species. It varies by trees within a species. And, you know, science hasn't been real interested in riving statistics for the last 100 years since science started. And so we really don't know why this is, but it's true. So I'm putting a little bit of weight on the lower one, and you can see it's running back down, I think. No, it's running pretty straight. So this might be one of those pieces of wood that no matter what I do, it's going to do whatever it does. But we'll keep splitting and see. So that opened up just fine. And so that would be a bow-sized blank. But to show you riving abilities, I'm going to split it in half again. And I'm going to put the blade in just a tad bit off center. So just to see if I can fix this problem. So it looks centered. Well, let me put it back in here. So it's a little bit thinner on the top there than it is on the bottom. And if I flip it over, it's the opposite. So I think I have more wood on the top right now. So I'm going to flip it this way. And I'm going to put a lot of weight on the bottom. A lot of weight. Another thing you can do is put weight on both. And that strengthens the top and weakens the bottom half of the split. And you can see it's running down. So now I have less wood here than I do there, whereas before it was the opposite. So I'm going to flip it back over. Get rid of this. Hey, play nice. Do it again. So now I'm pushing it back down towards the bottom. I mean, ideally, I wouldn't have let it go that far off, but I'm really just trying to show you that you can control this. So now it's going back towards the bottom again. So you really can, depending on the species, control it. This is white oak, and it is what you'd call a good riving wood. And they are few and far between. We have oak, we have ash, we have hickory, and there's probably 2 or 3 others that I'm forgetting, but they're pretty much all ring porous hardwoods, which aren't the most common kind of hardwood. They're fairly rare. We have happened to live, or I happen to live in a hot spot for them. And so you can split a lot of wood good enough to get chair legs and get spoons and get bowls and things out of. But if you're trying to make really long, thin splits like chair backs that need to be 60 inches long and an inch thick, you really don't have a whole lot of options. And so these Windsor chairs that I make were designed by colonists who landed on the East Coast, where they had the king of all hardwoods, oak, splits wonderfully, hickory splits wonderfully. And so they designed this chair around the woods they had. If they had landed in California, they would have designed a different chair. And so this kind of woodworking, unlike a lot of others where you're making a bench, you can kind of make a bench out of a lot of different kinds of wood. This kind of woodworking is really material specific, especially when you get into sort of these really intense bends. Now you need something that bends well and splits well and shaves well. So, I get a lot of questions about, well, I live in Arizona, what do I use to build a chair like this? And my best answer is you don't. You look at what wood you have and you build something that can accommodate them.